Boom. All right. So with that, let us get started. So let's jump into Figma. And if you haven't gotten an account on Figma, I highly recommend it. Today, you can just watch and hang out. That's totally cool. If you want to participate and do what I'm doing, then I would highly recommend creating a Figma account and jumping into the Figma URL and jumping into your main pages. So here I've got the page we worked on last week, which was my first Figma layout. And from last week, what we did was basically started to look at a web page or a mobile app. Anything on the web or anything on the mobile is really sectioned out into what I like to call boxes. And so we have our header box, we have our showcase box, we have our section 1 box, 2, 3, contact form, and footer. Why do I like to call this out in boxes? Because everything in coding is a pattern. All of these are just patterns. If I look at this and try to consume the entire page and try to figure out, oh, how do I code this entire thing? It becomes really overwhelming. So if I break it out into boxes, then I can digest them much easier. I can just focus on the navbar header box, and then I can focus on just the hero box, and then I can focus on section 1 box. And so that's why I really wanted to show this. And then what we made was this sort of really basic web page that shows header, showcase, section 1, 2, 3, contact form, and footer. This looks terrible. It looks very ugly, but from a very beginner early stage of coding, I just really want to emphasize patterns in boxes and how to look at not just the layout, but also HTML and CSS as patterns and boxes. So I'll get into HTML and CSS later on today. But from now, what we're going to do is start to create page 2. And I'm going to go ahead and delete my page 2 and delete this component because I was working on some other things. And so let's do this. If you're in your Figma layout and you're following from last week and you've created this, cool. If not, no worries. You can just create a brand new Figma page and it'll look exactly like this. So I'm going to create a page 2 by going to pages, and I have another page in my project, and now it's an empty page. So what are we going to work on today? Today, we're going to create this hero section, but we're not just going to create this hero section. We're going to create a way to see multiple styles simultaneously. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's go to a website, and I'm going to take you to a site called Pexels, Pexels.com. And in here, it's a free stock photo website. So you can use any one of these images you want to on your website, and you can start making your website look really, really nice with these stock image photos that are absolutely for free. So what am I going to search for? I'm going to search for Bangkok. And with photos of Bangkok, I kind of, for this particular lesson today, I want to choose horizontal photos just to make it really, really easy. And I'm going to pick yeah, I'll go with the one that I created earlier today. I was thinking about making something new, but I'll go with something I've already kind of pre-planned and tested. So I'm going to pick this web page or this photo, and we're going to design our entire web page based on this look and feel of this photo. So what do I mean by that? So I'm going to copy this image. So you can right click on Pexels and just anywhere in here, right click, and you'll find copy image. If you're on a Mac, control click. If you're on a Windows, right click, but you can copy image. And then we can go over to Figma and we can simply just paste the image, Control V, or paste here. Either way, up to you, whichever one you prefer. So why did that not paste? Interesting. Did it go somewhere else? Nope, it did not. Come on. Copy image. There we go. Now we have it. So when I get images in Pexel, it comes in from Pexel into Figma. It comes in really, really big. So I need to resize it. So I can resize it. But if I resize it this way, I lose my dimensions. That's not cool. I don't want to lose my dimensions. So what can I do? I can hold down Shift and then I retain my dimensions. I retain my height and my width so that my perspective stays the exact same no matter what size the image is. So I'm going to shrink this one down to, let's say, whoa, let's say I'm going to make this image a 300 by 200. So now our image shrinks pretty small, and I'm going to increase our size to 100%. All right, so now we have our image. And what are we going to do with this image? We're going to stick it into a frame. So what is a frame in Figma? A frame is just a container, a formalized container that we can put all of our boxes or all of our items into. Now, what I want for our web page, I want 50% of our web page to have, or our showcase to have text, the other 50% to be an image. So what are we going to do? We're going to grab this image right here, and I'm going to shape my frame to be double this width of this image. So the width of this frame or width of this image is 300. So my frame, I'm just going to make it 600. There we go. And so now we have our frame double the width of this image. And let's move that over just slightly. That looks better. There we go. So now what are we going to do? I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to pick some colors out of here. And why am I picking out colors? Because when it comes to design, I want my sort of text area and the background of this to blend into this color scheme. And so the predominant colors that I kind of see in here are orange for sure, but then I also see black and probably a little bit of a beige or a white. So I'll kind of pick those three colors. And it might not look great. You might have a different eye. You might have a better eye than I do. And you think, well, no, the tan here looks better, or the charcoal here looks better because that's more predominant, or the brown here is more predominant. I want to highlight these tones or these tones. So it's completely up to you, but I'll just show you how to do it in Figma. So what I'm going to do is create 3 little boxes. I like to do this up top. And box 1, Control C, Control V, box 2, and then I can copy and I can paste. And there we have 3 boxes. So how am I going to get the colors for these 3 boxes? Well, if I highlight this box, over on the right side is a fill option. So I'm going to grab the fill option, and there's an eyedrop tool here. Let me know if I'm going too fast, if this is not making any sense. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions, but I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool and grab this orange. And then I'm going to go to this box, and I'm going to grab the black off of the shirt back here. And for this final box, I'm going to grab, where'd it go? I'm going to grab the cup back here. So those 3 colors will dictate my palette. Now, in here, to create this kind of look, I'm going to have this section, and I'm going to have this picture over here. I'm not going to shrink the picture. I'm just going to leave it the full size just for now. And then later on, when we create it, we can shrink the picture and play around with that. But for now, I'm going to draw in a rectangle. And my rectangle is going to be of a certain color. So I'm going to make this that burnt orange color. All right. So that matches kind of like the color I saw here that I picked out earlier. Obviously, this doesn't look that great, so I'm gonna change this color slightly and pick a lighter orange off of probably that one. That one feels a bit better to me. So let's pick that color. There we go. That feels a bit better. Now I'm going to write in some text. Very commonly, I want to point you to a site called Lorem Ipsum. So commonly on web pages, especially if you have experience with maybe WordPress, you will see Lorem Ipsum. And really, it's just a placeholder text, doesn't mean anything. But every time you see this on a web page, it means some type of default text or dummy text was used. And that's why they used it, to just use it as a placeholder. So that's all we're going to do today, is use this as a placeholder. So I have a text box that I'm drawing, and I'm just going to paste in what is lorem ipsum there. And then in another text box, I'm going to paste in this section up to the word book. So lorem ipsum, why can I not highlight this correctly? There we go. So lorem ipsum to the word book, if you're following along. And I'm just going to come in and paste it into here. Oh, that's massive. This is really annoying. How do I change this? Well, up on the right side, we can then change the font size. So if I scroll down, I'll get bigger font. If I scroll up, I'll get smaller fonts. And for Figma, we're really not trying to get exact. We're just trying to get an idea of. So we don't have to keep the exact font sizes. If you have a company you work for where the sizes do matter, that's a different story. But for today, we're just trying to get used to the tool. So we're not trying to keep it exact, free flow, nothing too major. So here, I'm going to change this up to maybe a bold font. There is another site that I do want to show, and that is the Ultimate Font Pairing Guide, and that is the Canva Font Pairing Guide. So I'll pop this site in the chat as well. This is a really helpful site to look for font pairings. And when we look at font pairings, the way to use this site is it's got a design publication combination for these two fonts. So we've got League Spartan, which will be a font. I'm pretty sure League Spartan would be a font in here. So if we select our font and we come into enter here and click on enter, because that is the name of a font, I think we'll be able to find League Spartan right there. So Figma has these fonts already built in. So that's the League Spartan font. And if we come in, there's the Libra Baskerville. So if I come in here, I'll be able to change this one to Libra Baskerville. And there we go. So this is Libra Baskerville mixed with Spartan, League Spartan. And it's got a 57-point uppercase and a 27-point italics and a 13-point down here for the Libra Baskerville down below. So I can change this up, not from, this will be a regular, I can change it to a bold if I wanted to, or keep it there. I can increase the size. What I do like to do is increase the letter spacing. So typically, letter spacing is going to increase the width of the words. So let's say I go with a 3% letter spacing. It just looks a little bit more legible. And I'm going to change that font down to a 7. Cool. And with this one, I'm probably going to increase this up to probably a 15. Cool. All right. And the last thing we're going to do is create a, create a button. And that button is going to be a find more info. Why is this just not cooperating today? I think there's something going on with the Zoom recording and slowing my computer down, which is not fun. Okay, I'm going to create a button. And down here, a button will be sort of like a find out more button. And in here, I want to like round the button because a clunky button like this doesn't look that great. So there's a rounding tool under appearance under Figma where I can select how much I want to round it. If I want to round it at a 60 pixel rounding, that's pretty round right there. So more than likely 30 pixel rounding or anything above basically like 20 is going to be the same. It won't make a difference on most rectangular shapes. So here, if I want a 15 or 10, I think, I can't remember what the number is. That doesn't make a difference anymore. But let's just go with 10 should be good enough. And then in here, I will draw in another text box. And let's make that text box find out more. Perfect. Snap that up and we'll make that centered all around. Perfect. So right now our page looks pretty basic. It doesn't really have anything, and this text kind of feels out of place. So what if I want to change the color of this? Well, I can change the color by going to fill on the right, and I'll grab my little eyedropper and I'll change it to a black or a darker color to match. This one I might want to change to another, let's just hypothetically say I want to change it to that sort of tan color. That looks awful, but we're going to change it. And then this one, I have what I'm going to do with this one, because it's a text and a rectangle, I'm going to come over to the right side, and we did this in last week. So if you want review, you can go ahead and watch the video last week, but I'm going to group these together. And in the grouping, now I can get both properties together. There we go. I can get both properties and modify the backgrounds together. So maybe I want the background here to be a black color, and maybe I want the text to be the orange color, and see how that looks. Not so bad. So let me widen this out a little bit. There we go. Okay, I don't like this. I want to change some things. I might want to change the background, and I want to change, let's just change this up to this color. Oh, now my text is changed. So now I got to change this one. All right, how does that look? So instead of doing like individual changes, which can be very tedious, today I'm going to talk to you about what are known as components in Figma to make this whole change much easier. So I'm going to zoom out, and we're going to talk components. So what I'm going to do is, if you don't want to do it in this main window, you can come over to the side here and just create a component out of everything. Here is this image. All right. So we're going to create a component out of group 1, component out of lorem ipsum, component out of this lorem ipsum, and component out of rectangle 4. So to create a component, and it might make more sense for me to show you what a component is rather than try to explain it. So if you're following along, create component, and you'll notice the icon changes off to the side, and it changes into sort of this inverted square or sideways square. It's got 4 little squares inside of it. And so I'm going to do that for each one of these 4. I'm going to create component, create component, create component, and then finally create a component. Now, inside of this page, I don't want these components here. So what I'm going to do is move them to a new page. And what page is that? I'm just going to create a new page, and I'm going to call this new page, instead of page 3, components. All right. So I'm going to go back to page 2, and I'm going to right click on group 1, and towards the top of that panel, there is a move to page. So I'm going to move it to page components. So be careful not to move it to page 1, but move it to page components. So it disappeared. Now I'm going to take the lorem ipsum, and I'm going to move it to page components. I'm going to take the lorem ipsum, and I'm going to move it to page components, and I'm going to take rectangle 4, and I'm going to move it to page components. Whoa, everything just kind of went away. What happened? I'm also going to take these 3 rectangles that I've created for the orange, the black, and the beige. I'm going to move these over to components. All right, so on here now, we're just left with our image. When I go to components, I see all of them are here, but it looks really weird. Why does it look so weird? This blob box is taking up so much space. That's probably why. So what is the idea of a component? I'm going to show you, and then hopefully you'll get the idea as I'm going through it. But what I'm going to do is create variations of these 3 or 4 items. So here, I might not just want the color black, but I want the color orange, and I want the color beige. I'm going to call it beige for lack of a better term. I don't know what color it is specifically. But in this box, what is lorem ipsum? I'm going to, in the middle area or towards the bottom area, there's a main component sidebar. So you'll have add auto layout, more layout options, and none of that is main component. In the main component, you have this option called add variant. So I'm going to hit add variant, and all of a sudden you see the box change. The dynamics of it change entirely. I get this dotted line around it. I've got two items in here, and I've got a little plus box down here. So what I'm going to do is on this first one, I'm going to leave it black. On this second one, however, I'm going to go back to our fill option and change this color to, let's say, orange. I'm going to do one thing real quick. I'm going to take the first one and make that one. I want to follow 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to take this first one and I'm going to change the color to orange. All right. Oh no, it changed the background, not the actual text. So I chose the fill option as opposed to selection colors. So let me see. There we go. So I've got the text and now I can change it to orange. There we go. That's better. So now I've got orange text, I've got the dark text, and now I'm going to add another variant. And here's the shortcut for the variant is 2 variants. I can hit the plus sign and it adds a third variant down here. So that variant, I want it to be this color, the last and final color. So what does that do for me? Now, when I go back to, let's say, page 2, and I want to use that item, I'm going to use assets. And inside assets, I have this option for all libraries and local assets. I'm going to click on local assets, and I have these assets available to me now. And inside of here, if I click on the lorem ipsum option, there are 3 assets that I have. If I click on this one, there's only 1, so there's no option there. There's only 1, and there's only 1. We're going to see those numbers change. But here I have an instance. And here's my what is lorem ipsum. So I'm going to bring that in, and I'm going to add in another instance, and I'm going to add in a third instance. So 1, 2, and 3. And the only reason I'm showing you inside of here, I'll show you a larger example of how to build up marketing decks really, really fast to see what color patterns work and which ones don't. But this one, I'm going to come down and I'm going to change the variant to variant 2. And here I'm going to change the variant to variant 3. Hey, those are our 3 colors, orange, black, and beige. So how did we do that again? We went to File and we went to Components. And within Components, I'll do it for this one now. We right-click on it. And inside of that, we have a Main Component option. And we have this Add Variant option. So again, we right-click on it, Main Component, Add Variant. So inside of Add Variant, now I have a dark option, another dark option, and I'm going to add a third one because I know I want 3. So this first one, I'm going to change the fill color to our lovely burnt orange. I'm going to change the third one to our lovely beige. So, boom. Now I've got all 3 colors available to me here. I'm not going to go back to page 2 yet. I'm going to leave this in place. Hopefully you get the idea of what we're going to try to do. And then I'll show you kind of like the final idea. So I'm going to create our options first and then go back. So here we have our rectangle. And we have a main component. We're going to add a variant. And we're going to add another variant with a plus sign. So here, I'm going to change this one to being another fill. And we're going to change that to the orange. This one we're going to change to the dark. And the final one is our beige. All right, and finally this button option here. This one's going to have a few more combinations to it. So we can do a add variant. And I'm going to add a lot of variants to this one. Because we have 2 colors, we have about 6 options to play around with. So in this one, we've got our burnt orange that we will change to that color. And so the text is what we're going to follow. In here, we've got our background as being, we want our background to be orange and our text to be black. So that's our next one. And here we're going to have orange again as our background. And we are going to have the second color as being the beige, which looks terrible. Oops. There we go. That looks terrible, but it's at least an option we can play around with. And then finally, for this option, we are going to go with the light color for the background, and we will go with the dark color for the text. Did I not choose that one correctly? Think the text. Oh, that is right. What am I doing? There we go. And then for this one, we'll do the dark color, or we'll do the light color for here. Dark color for the text. There we go. And for the text, we are going to do the dark color. All right, so those are our 6 options for our boxes. Some of them look nice, some of them look terrible, but now we have some data to work with. Now I'm going to go back to page 2. I'm going to get rid of this one, get rid of this one, and get rid of this one. I'm going to go into my assets, which is next to file, and I have my libraries. Click on local assets, and I've got all of my options here. So we have 6 variants for our buttons, 3 variants for our lorem ipsum, 3 variants for our rectangle, and 3 variants for our text. I'm going to start with the rectangle and just add an instance. Boom, add that in. Cool. And then here I'm going to just add an instance, and that looks terrible. So I'm going to change the variant. Oh no, these names aren't that great. Like variant 1, 2, and 3. What does that even mean? How do I remember? So one thing I'm going to do is go back to components. And so we have this box here with what is lorem ipsum. In this box, we've got variant 3, variant 2, and default. The naming convention here isn't all that important, but the type of naming convention is very important. So in my default, I want to change this. That property 1 here is incredibly important. Property 1 equals, do not change that. We're just going to change the word default to orange. So in here, we've got property 1 orange. That's fine. Variant 2, we're going to change property 1 to dark. And variant 3, we're going to change this one to light. And so now I have light, dark, and orange. Hopefully easy to remember. Now I come back, this is dark. I want to change the variant to, hey, orange, dark, and light. Let's change it to light. That looks terrible. Change variant, orange. That can't even see it. So we know change variant, dark is probably going to be better for this one. Now if I go back to assets, I can take in lorem ipsum the text, and I can add this instance. And again, I'm still going to have that same problem of, wait a minute, which variant do I want to use? Default, variant 2, or variant 3? So let's go back to our components and change these over to variant default, which will be orange. Orange. Variant 2 is dark. And variant 3 is going to be light. All right, and I'll do that for these as well. So if I'm looking at this one, I am in the rectangle 4. I can change this to orange. This will be dark. And this will be light. I can change the names of these as well and call this background. Lorem ipsum, this is going to be the paragraph text, para text. And this will be title. And then I have one more, which is the button. And so in here, I can change this one to, I'm just going to call these dark orange. Variant 2 is dark background, light text. Variant 3 is orange background, dark text. And this will be orange background, light text. I almost don't even need this. I can delete it because it looks so terrible. I can delete this one because the contrast is just so terrible, but I'm just trying to emphasize the way to do this the long way. And so this will be light orange, and this will be light dark. Again, that property value, property 1 right here, is very important. Do not get rid of that. Otherwise, the variant will not show up. You can always come back and type it in. So for example, maybe I'll show that in later on. I don't want to muddy the waters too much. So now I've got all of these labeled. So I've got my buttons, my background, my paratext, and my title. These 3 rectangles, I'm not going to keep as components. They have this little normal rectangle. I'm just keeping them for reference in here in my components page. I don't need to use them anywhere else. So when I come back to page 2, now I have this lorem ipsum, and I come back here, I have orange, dark, or light. So I'm going to turn this to dark, and that looks much better. Cool. So I have dark and dark, and then I'm going to go back to my assets, and I'm going to add another button. And my button that I'm going to add is probably going to be that first one that I like. This is matching the style here. It looks aesthetically pleasing. It matches the tones. And we've got a showcase. We can build a website with this particular theme if we like it. But say we want to play around with other themes. What if I want to play around with different color combinations? Well, I'm just going to Control C, Control V. And now I have another frame. And I'm going to do a Control C, Control V again, and I have a third frame. Now, why am I drawing these 3 frames? Because I want to see what these other colors look like. So here, I'm going to change the background, change the variant to a light background. Or, well, I'm changing it to light because making it, I can change that to light. If I change this to dark right away, it's going to be hard to see those. Let me just do that. We'll change it to dark. And we'll change this one to, change the variant to orange, change the variant to orange, and change this variant to orange background, dark text. And so now we have a inverted design look. That's not too bad. And then here, if we want to change this to light, so I can change this to light, and I can change this one to, I can keep this where it is and just change the button if I wanted to, and keep it as a dark light. So there's my dark light. Now I have 3 different combinations that I can use. Cool. These all follow the same color pattern structure. Now, what if I wanted to get fancier? I'm going to zoom out. And I know this is going to be a little hard to see, but really I want you to pay attention to the color combinations and the variants. So what I'm doing is now I'm going to copy all 3 of these. And I'm going to Control C, Control V, and create all 3 of these here. So it's pretty quick that I can now start to play around with different color types. So I'm going to zoom in, and we're going to go to the hand tool, and cool. So let me zoom in a bit more. 85 should be all right. Yeah. So now if I want to change this color to, maybe I want to change this to the light color, change the variant to, maybe we'll just play around with the lorem ipsum text. Change the variant to light. Ooh, that doesn't look so great. I don't like that. We can change this individual variant to, let's say, light, and we can change this individual variant to, let's say, orange. Oh, all of these look, this one doesn't look so bad. The contrast is okay. So I can change 1 component at a time in each one of these, or 2 components. I'm going to zoom back out, and I'm going to, oops, let's go to 50%, and I'm going to create another panel. And I'm going to change 1 more thing in each one of those. So if I take these and I do a Control C, Control V, then I'm going to change the title. And now I can quickly have an entire panel of, okay, I'm just going to change this variant of the title to a light. That doesn't look so great. I'm going to change this variant over to a light, and I'm going to change this variant over to a orange. And now I've quickly got my color contrasting and I can see, you know what? These two don't look so bad, but the buttons might be a little bit off. So I can take all of these if I wanted to and create another section. But for now, that's a lot of work. So I'm just going to take this one and we'll Control C, Control V, copy and paste. And I'll bring this one down. And for the purposes of this, I'm just going to change the buttons. And so maybe I want to change the button to on this particular one, let's do a light dark. Okay, how does that look? Does that stand out on this page? I want to change this button and I want to have a different look let's go with a light dark again. And maybe I want to have this one be a dark orange. And so I can see which pages kind of pop out just at a bird's eye view of my sites. So I kind of wanted to just show the basics of Figma and really how quickly I can get different designs going just from a picture, how easy Figma makes it to have multiple looks and feels. I am going to do something that is probably going to make people upset, but be aware that this is a video. But I want you to get into the habit of being able to delete your work. Yes, there you go. Good job. Thank you. But yes, you're right on it, Tuan. I'm going to try to help you get used to the feeling of deleting the work. And so we're going to do something very drastic here. And I am going to delete my page. All of that work is gone, and I'm going to delete my components page. All of that is gone. And now we're starting back from scratch. Oh no, we're starting back from scratch. We don't have our page one. And I know I can Control Z, I can undo, but what I really want you to get in the habit of is to get rid of your work and feel confident that you can rebuild it. And so what are we going to do? We're going to do that same thing again. So we're going to create page 2. Cool. And inside of page 2, we're going to take our pile of shrimp picture, and that's what it's called up here. Pile of shrimp on plates is literally what this picture is called. So I'm going to copy the image. I'm going to bring it into Figma. And once it is in Figma, then I'm going to paste it. And come on. Does not seem to want to paste for me. There we go. So now I'm going to shrink this down again, and we can play around with the size, but I'm going to make this size 300. And you'll see over to the very right here, there's sort of a chain here, this chain button, where if I constrain the proportions, if I chain these together, then if I change one, automatically the other will change. So if I change the width to 300, the height automatically changes with it. So it keeps its proportions. If I don't do that, then I change one to 600, and then the proportion of the other stays the same. And so the picture just doesn't look right. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to link these back together. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in again because this is too far out. But, oh, there it is. And let's grab our little hand tool, and boom. So now I'm going to draw a frame. And the frame is going to be roughly, in my frame sizing, is going to be 600 by 200. So there we go. Pop that in. And now I've got my frame back to where we were. And again, I'm going to choose my 3 boxes. So I'm going to create 3 small little rectangles up at the very top. These little small rectangles are going to help me with my color palette. So I'm creating a color palette here based on what I want. So I will then color this one that orange. So grab the little eyedropper tool, and this eyedropper tool, I'm going to hover over, and I kind of want that orange right about there. Cool. And then I'm going to grab this one, and I'm going to grab the eyedropper, color dropper tool again. And in here, it's pretty much all the same color. So it's that dark color off of the shirt. And then this final color will be this cup or this serving container. My guess it has chili in it, but I don't exactly know. But I'm going to grab the colors off of this container. There we go. So we have our 3 colors again. And also what I'm going to do is actually circumvent this. And maybe since I know I want to create components, I'm just going to create a components page. Oh, I've done this before. I can just go to components because I know what we're going to do. So I'm just going to go to components. And inside of components, I'm going to start creating my elements in here. Here's my rectangle. Ooh, how big does my rectangle have to be? That one, I think it's going to be 300 by 200 because those dimensions came from here. It's going to be the same size as my picture. And this one, I'm just going to make this one 200 to make it easy, but 300 by 200. And so this half would be 300 by 200. So inside of my components, I have this one as 300 by 200. And wait a minute. Oh, I need my 3 little rectangles. All right, let me go grab them. Boom. I got them, and I'm going to right click on them, and I'm just going to move to the page. So this time I'm going so out of order. I don't have to follow the same order that I did before because I kind of know what I want to do now. I have an end goal in mind, so I can choose whichever path feels comfortable for me. So I'm going to go to components, and in here I should have my rectangles, which where did they go? I just don't, there they are. They disappeared. So that is one annoying thing about Figma. It's hard to find out where on the page they land, but once you find them, that's okay. So I've got my box there, and inside of this box, I'm going to change the color for this one. And I can either change the color or I can make the component either or. So boom. And then I'm going to right click on here and I'm going to create a component. Hey, sweet. And now this rectangle is a rectangle, and I'm going to come back here, main component, and add variant. Sweet. And now I'm going to add my third. So in here, I'm going to make this one the dark color. So we're going to go dark. And then finally, for this particular one, we are going to go with the light color. And I've got my 3 components. Awesome. Then I'm going to draw in my title. And here is what is lorem ipsum. And it is so light to see, so impossible, but that's okay. We are going to zoom in, and that'll probably make it a little bit easier. So if I zoom in, now I can see that, and I can change the text over here and make this text, let's say a 13. The font we had used was a League Spartan. Oh, I can't remember. Here's my trusty site that tells me it's League Spartan. Cool. So type in League Spartan. There we go, League Spartan. And I'm going to increase the size. Well, I'll leave the size. Maybe a 15 would work. And then my final lorem ipsum text over here. Copy this over. And boom. And move that over. And we can decrease the size of this to probably around a 10 or a 7, whatever we want to. And finally, we're going to create a button. So boom. Just going to create that button. And inside here, we're going to put some text. All right. Now, as you probably notice, I'm going well out of any type of order. I'm just kind of going based off of what I'm feeling at the moment. And so it's completely up to you on how you want to approach this as well. So here's find out more, and here's a rectangle 4. Sometimes in the layers, it's hard to find them, but I'm going to group these 2 together. So I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to group the selection. Now, inside that grouping, I'm going to go to rectangle, and I'm going to change up the border radius. So I'm going to give it a border radius of 10, give it some nice rounded corners, and I'm going to extend this out just a little bit to make it a little bit. There we go. Now I've got my 3 components. There's 1, 2, and 3. And here we're going to change the color to orange. And you don't have to change the color first. Not at all. You can create the component first, and then you can add the variants, and then you can change the colors. It's very much up to you on what you want to do, which order you want to take. There's no right way to do this. So there we go. And I like the consistency of orange, black, light, or beige. So that's the format I'm choosing for all of these. So there we go. And we have our three colors there. For this particular one, I'm going to add in my variant. So create component, right click again, main add variant. And there we go. So we have our three components and boom, fill with this. Oops, wrong one. So on the text, just make sure to double click on it and then you'll get the right fill. And boom. And then for the next one, we are going to do a fill. Did I select the right text? It's going to give me the same problem. Okay, cool. And there we go. And we've got our three colors there. And for this one, I'm just really only going to do three colors in the interest of time, because I know we have about 45 minutes left, roughly 40 minutes left. I did want to show some CSS and some HTML and how to steal code. I think stealing code is very important, and it's not really stealing. So I'll show you why. But here we have the background. So I'm going to choose the orange color for the background, and then I'm going to choose the orange black. There we go. So that looks nice. I'm going to create a component out of this. And then I'm going to add a variant. And I'll add one more variant. I'm not going to go crazy on this one. I'll change the background to black. So we have a black background. And then we will change the text to be that gray color, or that light gray color, or the beige color. And then finally, down here, we'll make the light color, we'll make the orange a light color. So we have light in there, and then we'll keep the text as being dark. I think these three are probably our best options. So how do we add these in? Hopefully you're comfortable with the naming. Maybe I can just show you on one of them real quick. So when you hover over variant 3, just be aware that it links to this one. So the order that I create the variants, this is kind of backwards in Figma. You would think that the first one would be on the top and then the variants would come after. But in fact, the third one is on top, then the second one, and then the first one is the default on top. You would think the order would be default variant 2, then variant 3. But nope, this is the default. If you want to change it, by all means, you can click on it and then drag it up here and change the order to your liking and your preference. These are layers, these are objects, which is really nice. So if you're familiar with like Photoshop layers or Lucid Drawing or Lucid Chart layers, this works the exact same way. I'm going to change the name of this one to orange, dark, and light. So I'm not going to do this for all of them, but I just want to show you real quick how to do this. So now when I come back to my page 2, hey, I want to add in my assets. I have this one image right here, or one frame here. Cool, here's my assets. How did I get here? Probably if you're going to start and click on assets the first time, you're going to get these local assets, and you might not get these four. So just click on local assets and you'll get these. So I'm going to start with the background, and I'm going to insert my instance. Hey, cool, fits in, great. Then I'm going to add in my lorem ipsum, and whoops, come on, there we go. Oh, it's orange right now. I don't like that orange, so I'm going to change it to my variant 2. Okay, cool. There's my dark lorem ipsum, awesome. And then I'm going to add in my title. Hey, cool, what is lorem ipsum? And in my title, I'm going to change this because I don't want orange on orange. I'll change it to variant 2. All right, sweet. So now I've got my what is lorem ipsum above, and these are dark, dark, and I can add in my third instance of the button. And I don't like that, so I'm going to change my variant, and I'm going to make it dark. And ooh, you know what? That doesn't work out so well. Maybe I have a better variant. Maybe the light works out better. For this one, I probably wanted to create a dark background with a orange text, but it's okay. For right now, we're all right. I don't think I have a dark background with an orange text. What does my dark look like? I'll just change it to dark. change a variant to dark. Yeah. Hopefully the orange text, we can create another variant with orange text, but I just want to show you today kind of what the components look like. And so I'm going to copy this whole thing, Control C, V, and paste this down below here. And we're going to create a third one. And now I have this third one down here. Cool. So what am I going to do? I'm just going to change this background to the other variant that we had. Change variant to variant 2. Whoa, that's a dark variant. So let's change these variants to default. And let's change this one to default. And let's change this one to orange. Hey, that doesn't look so bad. And then finally, this last one, we're going to change the variant to variant 3. And hey, that doesn't look so bad either. So I'm going to leave it at that for these. I know I've created a whole bunch before, but in the interest of time, I really just wanted to review what we've done and go through it. But the main idea is on the components. We can create these components and reuse them and have different variations, and then really quickly be able to have different designs at our disposal pretty quick in Figma. So now the next question. Before we move on, actually, I wanted to pause and just ask if there's any questions. If I went over something too fast, if you're wondering how to do something, feel free to pop it in the chat. And I'd love to know, was this helpful? Was this too basic? Was this too fast? Any feedback would be helpful. This is really for you guys. So yeah, let me know. Okay, good to move on. Sweet. How you get the button? Uh, so the button, this one, I created it from the components. And inside there, what I did was go to Assets inside the page. And under Assets, here's the button right here. Under Group 1, I didn't rename it in the interest of time, but I can add the instance in here. And then here's our button that appears once I add the instance. But I created the component. I created it as a component in the components page that I created. And then from there, I was able to add it to page 2 from assets. Correct. You create the button yourself. So for all of these components, I created them all myself. So if I created a button, I'm going to go to a rectangle and I'm going to draw a rectangle. And inside here, I'm just going to put in some basic text of find out more. And it's probably really hard to see that find out more, but what I'm going to do is find out more in the rectangle. I'm going to put these two, because I just created them, into their own group. And now I have a group of these two together. Now inside of here, I'm going to change the colors. So I'm going to change the white text to, let's say, black text. And the text will change to black. And then I'm going to change the background from this light color to, let's just say, orange. Cool. So up in the corner, you'll have this option of appearance on the right-hand side. And underneath, to the right of that, is this corner radius. It's got like a little rectangular hook thing next to it. And so here, you can just type in the number 10. And generally, that's going to give you a pretty rounded corner. You can increase that. Anything beyond, I think, 20, you won't get any type of effect. So that's about the most you're going to be able to get. Cool. Okay, so now let's jump into the coding section of this. And I know this is going to be very intimidating for people who have never seen code before, but we're going to step into Visual Studio Code. Ugh, this is going to be a bit scary. So what I'm going to do is first, I'm going to recommend creating a folder on your desktop called Showcase. So new folder on the desktop, and we're going to call it Showcase. And inside of Showcase, let me rename this one to Showcase. So inside of the folder on your desktop, let me share out Visual Studio Code real quick. Share Visual Studio Code. So I'm going to share both. So now you hopefully can see my Visual Studio Code window. And in here, I'm going to go to File and Open Folder. And under Open Folder, I am going to go to my desktop and I'm going to go to Showcase. So I don't know, hopefully you can see that, but I'm going to go to Showcase and I'm going to open that folder. And inside of that Showcase folder, there's absolutely nothing. But yes, I trust the authors of the files of this one. So hit trust because it is on your own computer. If you've opened the folder Showcase, you'll see there's 4 little buttons. There's a new file, a new folder, a refresh, and a collapse. So, or I don't even know what that one's for. Oh, collapse, it is collapse. So there's a new file, and I'm gonna hit new file. And in here, a little box pops up, and I'm gonna type in index.html. Cool. So now I have this index.html file that shows up. If that's too fast and people are not able to keep up, let me know. And maybe I can walk you through it, how to find this little ability to create index.html. I know we had some problems with it last week where I was asking you to create a file on your desktop, but it just completely passed my mind where, oh, you can create a file from Visual Studio Code as well. Cool. So, BB, do you have Visual Studio Code installed on your computer? Okay, so you're going to need to install Visual Studio Code to keep up with this part of the lesson. And so I would recommend going to Visual Studio Code. Why can I not type today? There we go. So if you go to just Visual Studio Code and go to downloads, it is a Microsoft product. You can probably, sweet. And then, oh, sorry. That's the wrong one. This is the one. My bad. Why am I lost today? But it's download Visual Studio Code here, and I'll pop this in the chat. Boom. There we go. So you can download it right from here and for whatever operating system you have. But basically, if you want to learn more about it, this is all free. You should not have to pay for anything. So hopefully, yes, KZ. Yes, that is absolutely correct, KZ. I am going to replicate what we've done in Figma. What we've done here, I'm going to replicate one of these into the Visual Studio Code. So you'll be able to see live CSS as well as HTML. So inside of Visual Studio Code, we've got this new file, index.html. And inside of Visual Studio Code, it's really nice, hopefully out of the box. And I can't remember if this is out of the box or not, but you can just type in HTML, and here you'll have 3 options. And the first one is what we call an HTML tag. This is not what you want, but I just wanted to show you what happens if we click on it. Then you'll have HTML5. This is the one you want to click. And you click it on the main area. You don't want to click the configure, but now you can click HTML5 and you're good to go. So BB, when you open Visual Studio Code, hopefully you created a folder on your desktop called Showcase. And then from Visual Studio Code, you can go to File, Open Folder, and you're going to open Showcase. So that is where we're at right now. Once you're in Showcase and that folder opens, you'll see it here. Sweet. So now inside Showcase, you'll be able to see this plus sign and you'll see index.html here. So what he did is click that plus sign and just created a file called index.html like we have here. So I can show that part one more time. I'm going to delete this, don't save. And my number one go-to, get used to deleting. So we're going to delete it and recreate it. And we'll create index.html. All right, so now we have a blank index.html. With HTML coding and with every single web application, every single mobile application, that word is very, very important. Index.html is very crucial in all of coding. Sweet. All right, so now inside of index.html, we're going to type in HTML and we'll click on HTML5. And we should get this header type of thing. If you don't get this, I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat just in case. So you can copy and paste this yourself into your own Visual Studio Code. But now we've got this thing that looks really scary. This looks really intimidating. It's like, whoa, what is all of this? I don't know what it is. I'm going to explain it. We'll go step by step. So in here, this is what's called a HTML skeleton. We're going to focus today on what's inside of the body. Next week, we're going to break down what HTML is, how it works, and all the things that need to get remembered for HTML and CSS. But today, I'm just going to go very, very high level on how to create what we've created already. So with that, inside of our Figma file, what we have so far is this sort of box. So we've got a title, we've got a paragraph, we've got a button, and we've got a left side and a right side. So we've got left, we've got right, we've got 1, 2, 3 elements, and we've got an image. So how do we do that in Visual Studio Code? So I'm going to copy and paste what's in Figma. I'm just going to copy the what is lorem ipsum. And inside Visual Studio Code, I'm going to paste that in. What is lorem ipsum? And then I'm going to copy and paste what is, or the lorem ipsum text. So I'm just going to copy and paste, and it looks terrible. It looks absolutely horrific. And inside here, I'm going to copy and paste the find out more and find out more. Okay, this all looks horrifically bad. It is not good. So what am I going to do? I'm going to open this up inside of my browser. What do I mean by that? Inside of my Chrome browser or Mozilla browser. I remember someone was using another browser. I highly recommend just Chrome or Mozilla. So inside of here, I'm going to do open file. And inside of my open file, I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to go to showcase, that folder I created, and I'm going to go to index.html. And I'm going to open it. And right now, it's going to look terrible. There's nothing in it. Why? Because I didn't save my index.html. Inside of Visual Studio Code, you'll see, if you haven't saved anything, you'll see right next to index.html, you'll see this white dot. That is an indicator that I haven't saved anything. Why do I bring that up? Because it's going to be very important today that we keep saving and then going back. It's going to be very annoying. So I'm going to show you a tool at the end that will speed this process up. But I'm going to go here, and now I have to go back in here and refresh. So hit that refresh, and all of a sudden my text pops up. This looks horrifically bad. This looks nothing like our goal of, where did it go? Nothing like our goal. Did I get rid of the Figma thing? Oh, it opened it there. So let me open a new window then, and file, open file. And I'm going to go back to that showcase index.html and open it here. There we go. All right. So how do we get this to look like this? All right. So that website that I showed in the very beginning, which was our goal website, we're going to cheat. And this is how all developers cheat. So the secret to development is go up into View. And generally speaking, if you're in Chrome, it's under View, Developer. In Mozilla, I think it might be up in the upper corner. There might be those three drop downs at 3 bars, the hamburger bar. And in there, there'll be developer tools. But in here, you're going to click on developer tools. And when you click on developer tools, there's a box that'll open up generally on the bottom but sometimes it'll be on the right side, sometimes it'll be on the left side. You can change the orientation. We're not going to go over that today, but wherever it opens up, was everyone able to open up developer tools in Chrome or Mozilla? And I'm going to paste in this HTML cheat sheet in the chat just so you have it so you can follow along exactly where I'm at. But if you go to the HTML cheat sheet and you look under the view, developer, and developer tools, you'll be able to see the actual sort of HTML body. So here we have HTML, here we have head, and here we have body. If we go back to Visual Studio Code, we have HTML, we have head, and we have body. But I'm not seeing the things in between head, and I'm not seeing the things in between body. Well, that's what these little expansions are for. And so we can click on the expansion for head. Oh, there's a bunch of stuff in here. Well, this meta stuff looks kind of familiar because it's up here as well. And this title thing looks familiar because it matches what I have here. Let me change up this title and change it to my web page. Now I'm doing this on my site, so I can hit save here. And when I go back to our little crappy site here, I don't know if you can see it on the tab, but if I refresh, it changes up to my web page here. If I go to my document here, which is on the public internet, and I come into document here, and I change this up to changed title, this one probably won't work. Oh, I can't because it'll have to refresh. But I would be able to change certain parameters on the page. And I don't think, oh, it did change it. Sweet, it changed it live. There's my change title, live. So I can come in here and say whatever I want. Uh, uh, whole new world. So boom. And now I've got a whole new world here as my title. So I can make modifications to the site if I want to. What's even cooler is if I go into the body section. Now, inside the body section, I've got this nav bar, which is that top sort of box up here. It went from sort of bluish to now you see green and a highlighted blue as well inside of there. The green might be a little hard to see, but if I go off of it and come back to it, that's a box. So now we're going to focus on the hero section. And in the hero section, so inside of here, let me reduce the size. Let me give it some more space so we can see what's going on. So inside of this hero section, I've got an image and some text. And so I probably want to bring this off to the side so you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully that's easier to see. And so I've got this hero section here, and I've got my hero div here. So I probably want to create a div, and I probably want to have my hero text inside of a div. This class stuff, I don't understand it, but we'll get to that in the future. And here's my hero header, and here's my hero text. Whoa, this looks very familiar. I have a title on my web page. I have a title. I have some text. I don't have a button on this web page, but it can't be that hard. And then an image. So how do I organize all this? Well, if I just look at sort of what they did on this web page, I've got a div for my hero. So that's a main div. So let me do that one. All right. So actually, let me backtrack. Hero, here's a hero header with a hero section. So they did it inside of a p tag. I can do that. Let me do that inside of a paragraph tag. And where did my Visual Studio Code go? So I'm going to do this one inside of a paragraph tag. Now, wait a minute. How did I do a paragraph tag? A paragraph tag, we're going to learn about a lot more next week, but it's open bracket, the letter P, close bracket. And these are right next to the letters M on your keyboard. So shift open bracket P, shift closed bracket, and then it automatically creates the second P inside of Visual Studio Code. And you'll notice the big difference is that forward slash. That forward slash, it signifies the end. So inside of these parameters, whatever is inside of these, the text quality will change. So if I bring these Well, around this p tag and towards the end. Then when I go back to my web page here, notice what happens to this section. If I refresh, now I have space in between. So there's automatic formatting that happens with these tags. That's both a good thing and an annoying thing, but we'll get a lot more into details. So today, just follow along and we'll address all these questions around, whoa, what is a P tag? What is an H1? What does all this stuff mean? I know today will be a bit intimidating with the coding, but I do want to just introduce you to it because what's the most important thing is seeing the patterns and try to focus on the patterns that are at play. So here we've got P, and we'll cover the class in a moment, but right now I want to focus on this tag. And we've got the tag for this, and then we're going to wrap it in a div hero text. This div red line, we're not going to worry about that because that's special to here, and it's just a red line for segmenting and looks and styles. But here we're going to go with hero text. So div, where does this div end? This div ends here. How do I see that? Ooh, that's tough to see. So div, and this line can help us. This line shows us, oh, that's the next div. The one before that is this div. So these two, hero text and this div, go together, which encapsulate all of this in the middle. So what does that mean? We can go here and just type in div. And I'm going to take this tag and pop it down here. Boom. And tab that in. I don't have to, but for my eyes and my purposes, to make it more visually appealing, I'm going to tab that in. So now when I save it, there's going to be no change at all on our web page. It's going to look the exact same. But structurally, we've added a divider component. Now, there are more divider components that we have to add. So in here, there's our hero that goes above the hero text. So we added the hero text. Now I'm going to add this class called hero text just to make this so it's less confusing or easier to see. So boom. So there's our hero text. And outside of this div, we're going to add another div, which is going to be our hero section. So hero section is this whole thing with the image. So let's go back to Visual Studio Code and add in div. Take this div, put it to the bottom of this one, and to make it easier to read, indent those, done. And we're going to call this class hero. Awesome. So we have hero, hero text, and we have our divs. Now inside of here, we've got our hero, hero text. Well, let me collapse hero text. Perfect. No worries, BB. You have a good evening, and I'll let you know when it's posted in the meetup comments. All right, so now underneath the hero, we have hero image div. So I'm going to add in hero image div. What's inside of hero image div? Oh, hero image. So we're going to add in an image as well. So there's a couple ways to add in the image. You can either do a direct link, or you can copy and paste the image directly in, save it to your desktop and copy it into your showcase folder. Up to you. But we're going to go with the div first. So hero image div. So inside of here, inside of the hero, inside of the section, underneath this hero div. So underneath this, we're going to create another box. So these sections are really important. Class equals, and we're going to call this one hero image div. And you're going to see what's called, I'm going to call this camel casing. This is called camel casing because we have a word, and then the first word is lowercase, the next one is uppercase, and the last one is uppercase as well. So this is called camel casing. If you're familiar with JavaScript, this is very common in JavaScript. CSS generally uses this convention, and so does HTML. And so I'm going to show you how we're going to use these in CSS. So inside of here, we're going to use an image tag, and we're going to use the image S, image colon S, because it's going to pre-fill in the source. Now we're going to go to our pile of shrimp. and we're going to copy image address, and we're going to come into our Visual Studio Code and paste in the image address. In the alt, we don't have to add this, but just type in shrimp image. Okay, so now when I save this, what is our page going to look like now that we have an image? Well, I'm going to refresh, and whoa, this is ridiculous. Our image showed up, but it is massive. This is so irritating. What is going on? Okay, well, we'll fix all this. Now, the one thing I do want to add in regards to CSS is going to be this find out more thing. I'm going to add in what is called a button. And in here, we're just going to copy and close that tag. And inside, if I don't close this button tag, well, I don't want to show that as a button because it's gonna be hard to see. But with that button tag there, now if we go back to our page, now it changes the format to a button. Doesn't do anything, but it's just a button that we can click. Doesn't go anywhere yet, but we'll fix that later on in the future. But we have a find out more button here. So now our site is starting to look closer. We have at least the elements of this. So how do we turn this into this? So this is where I'm going to cheat. I'm going to grab all this stuff on the right panel of our page. And so if I come up to the hero section, well, this is basically something I can just copy all together and paste into a file called CSS or style CSS. So I'm going to create a new file. So next to the word showcase is a new file button, and you can click new file, and we're going to call style.css. And inside style.css, I'm just going to paste in hero or dot hero. That dot is incredibly important because that dot signifies a class name. So inside of here, now we have a hero and we have some CSS. And let's go back to our page and see what happened. Wait, nothing really happened. Why? Well, a couple of reasons. But first, we need to tell HTML about our style CSS. So if we look at our page, up here in the head, there is a link right here, link to a style sheet, and it's called CSS style sheet. So we can copy this, or we can go into Visual Studio Code and type in link and CSS, and it automatically fills in because the default name is style.css. So once I do that, let's go back and see if anything changed. And whoa, things are changing. Things are moving. We've got at least the two items side by side now. Awesome. That's a step in the right direction. And we can go back to our site and we can then copy the hero text CSS. So let's copy all of this. So Control C, and we'll come back to our Visual Studio Code, and we've called this hero text. So inside style CSS, down below, we'll just copy and paste, and we'll see what happens to our web page. And let's see. Hey, something's shifting. All right, so it moved down to the middle. I don't have any clue of what's going on because I'm a brand new coder, but things are shifting in the direction that I want them to go. All right, let's check out the hero image. All right, we'll go with width text 100% and text align, and there's our image. And so I'll just copy and paste in here again. And we'll see what happens to our site. Okay, things are shifting. Well, maybe not so much there. I don't know what happened there, but maybe we missed something. All right, no worries. Let's go to our hero image and let's change up this image sizing here. And cool. And cool. And let's take a look at our page now that we've changed that. Hey, whoa, things are definitely headed in the right direction now. So I've got much closer to my final layout, way closer than where I was. And did I really understand anything that I've done here? No, but I had a kind of idea based on the patterns that I was seeing on this page. And that's really the most important thing is patterns. The structure, the layout, all of that doesn't matter. Developer Tools is going to be your best friend to get all of this stuff done. And so as we continue to go on with this, I've got the hero, I've got all these things. Now, one thing I am going to do is there's a star element here. I'm going to pop that in just to clean some stuff up real quick, but we should be pretty close to the end of what we need. Whoops, not that far away. Whoops. Not that far away. So pop that in and let's take a look at what else we need to do here. So I think in here, we've just got to put a background and probably change up the button and maybe add some padding here and we should be good to go. I'm going to change up that size to 100% and refresh this and that page. Cool, that looks a little bit better. I'm going to give this an orange background. So inside of my hero text, I'm going to call this background, background color. And the background color I'm going to steal from Figma. Wait a minute, how are you going to steal from Figma? Well, it's this color down here at the selection colors down at the very bottom. It's FA7B0C. What? What color is that? I have no clue. No worries. You don't have to know. Just type in the color code and you're good to go. And let's take a look at our page. Whoa, okay, we've got this burnt orange kind of color. It's coming together. And then we can work on the title. And so inside of our title, what do we want it to be? I'm not going to get into Google Fonts today. That's a little bit more complicated because that might be throwing too much. But I am just going to show you kind of some CSS in terms of font family. And so I think in our page here, I think we have a font family Gill Sans. So it's in the body section. And so I'm just going to copy this one to make it similar to what we have here. And I'm just going to keep it really simple so we don't have to go too far in depth into things that we're not ready for yet. We'll cover those things over the next couple of weeks. But if we come back to our page, now if I refresh, hey, that font looks a lot better. Okay, cool. And now if I come back to our page, there's still something missing in our hero text. I think did I get that right? Did I miss something here? I think I might have. Hero text. Hero text, display flex, column, center. Let's go space between or space evenly. That looks a little bit better. So that looks better. Cool. And then I can increase the font size of this because I have a title. And how do I identify my title? In here, I've got a p tag, and I can call this class equals hero title. And in here, I can call this class equals hero para. And hero title and hero para. If I don't want to use these names, which I think they probably are the same, hero header is what I called it. Sorry. So let's go there, change that. We can add in this CSS into hero text, hero header, and save that. And I'm going to change this to hero header. And what did I call this one? Hero para. I did call it hero para. So I'm going to copy this one and paste it in. And we're going to call this one under hero header. Just paste in hero para. And if I go back to my page, assuming I saved everything, hey, that looks much better. I probably want to change up my width here. We'll talk about that next week. And I'll quickly go over formatting a button. I know we just have a few minutes left, but let me just quickly format a button. And we're going to call this one class equals BTN. And so in our style sheet, we're going to come in here and go dot BTN, and we're going to go width probably 150 pixels, and we'll go with padding. And I know none of this will make sense right now, but I will explain it all next week when we get into CSS, especially the padding stuff, which is kind of a bit complicated. Border radius of 30 pixels. and we'll go with border none. So now when we refresh, hey, that button looks a little bit better, and we'll go with background for now. I'm just going to call it black. Call this background color black and make it easy. And in here, we are going to do a padding left. There we go. So that looks, whoa, that did not work the way I wanted it to. Whoops. Margin left. And, oh, I want the color of the text. Why am I missing that? Yeah, I want the background to be black. Oh, I want got it. Background color black. And I want the color of the text to be orange. So hopefully, there we go. Ooh, sorry about that. Just got lost in the color scheme. But now when we look at our page, it is much closer to this one. It's not exact, clearly not exact, but clearly it is much more on track. And what did we do? We started off with our CSS looking terrible. So I'm going to comment this out. And I know we don't know what comments are yet, but I wanted to show you kind of the power of CSS. So if I refresh this, this is what we started off with. It looks terrible. But the second I start adding in CSS, which just one line, now I've traded it into this type of web page here. So I know it's 9:30. I apologize. I wanted to leave about 5-10 minutes for question and answer at the end. So if you want to stick around for question and answer, please feel free to ask questions. What was confusing? What was difficult? What you learned today? Please feel free to exercise the chat, unmute yourself, and we can have a conversation. I'm happy to help wherever you got stuck. My pleasure. Thank you for sticking around. Glad you got a lot out of it. Yeah, all right. If there are no questions, sweet. Thank you, Casey. Glad you learned a lot. But yeah, I'll be posting this up on YouTube. So if you want to review, what I would recommend is trying to practice this over and over, especially that idea of stealing code or cheating or copying code from this section. Because the more you do this, hopefully you'll be able to see the pattern. Thanks, Taji. So hopefully you'll be able to see the pattern and then slowly start to understand how each one of these relates. Like if I look at the hero section and the hero header and I take away the font size, whoa, that changes automatically the font weight. Oh, that changes the padding left. Oh, that changes. So that's what each one of these does. Ah, oh, cool. All right. I haven't used Edge, so hopefully that works the same with developer tools on Edge. But good to know. But all right. And then later on in the next couple of weeks, we're going to get to look at HTML in depth. We're going to, oh, very cool. We're going to look at CSS in depth and see how those two link together. We're going to do more. And then after that, we'll look in responsive design and how to make the web page fit for mobile, for tablets, for other devices. So for today, it's just looking at patterns, just looking at boxes. Sweet. All right. Yeah, if there are no other questions, thank you all for coming today. It was great. All right, everybody. I will see you next week, hopefully. And in the meantime, you all have a wonderful evening and a wonderful week. And hopefully you get to practice. And now you're going to be sleuthing on different websites, spying on them, stealing their code. Yes, that's what we want. It's not stealing, it's perfectly available. It's there for you to consume. Perfect. Bye, everybody.